Night Vision. Following clues left by our ancestors, we unbury the past to reveal a knowledge of unfathomable value, putting us just a little closer to our own true birthrights. From the secret history of a possible bloodline of Jesus Christ, the secret history of America's founders, to the secret history of extraterrestrial interaction on our planet, here to bring light to the night. Your host for Night Vision Radio, Renee Barnett.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Night Vision. If this is your first time here, I'm your host Renee Barnett, and looking forward to a great show tonight. And I'm very happy to announce that our historian James Martin is fresh off the road on his latest exploration, and he's joining us tonight and with tales from the road. And I'm trying to bring you up, and I cannot. Okay, there you are. I'm so sorry. Hi.
Hi, Renee. Hi, everyone. Good to be back. Long time. Been a very busy
I have to get
month.
you on the radio to ever talk to you anymore. So I had to drag you on so I could get a couple of hours. You've been busy.
Very, very busy exploring Europe, really.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear some of the stories. I've heard a few of them, but definitely not all the detail because, as I've said, you've been really busy. I've been busy too, but we've just been hitting and missing. So as I said on the announcement today on my Facebook page, I'm going to be hearing this new evidence along with everyone else. So that's pretty exciting. I like that. I like hearing it along with the listeners and the viewers, and so we can all react together and be entertained. So, and informed, of course. But now, I'm going to let you sort of lead the way here and tell me, where would you like to start? Are we going on a route? So we're sort of going on a place-to-place route. Where do we start?
So I've been traveling across England and Scotland. With work, so very busy and all of this. So in my downtime, my thoughts on things, which is to get off your derriere and go and explore. So what I thought I would do is we'd take a route that goes up the northeast of England, round to Roslyn, and then we close with a place that I can only describe as being evil. And that's at the Hermitage Castle.
Is that what we're ending with?
I thought so. Why not?
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, we'll have to throw in a joke at the end or something to lighten things up. But those of you who are viewing the show and not just listening, as you'll see, there's a banner going across the bottom right now that's going to give you some ideas and repeat the locations that James was just talking about. And as you see, we're going to be talking about Templars, Vikings, more Templars, Mithras, Roslyn Chapel, oh my goodness, and Hermitage Castle, the Hermitage Castle. Now that is the scary Mary place, right?
Absolutely.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well then, yeah, maybe that is a good place to end up with a good scare at the end. So what's our first port of call?
Well, first port of call is a church called St. Andrews in a place called Bolham. And for those who frequent listeners, you'll recall that I'm trying to map Templar sites. So actually, this was a visit as a favour, as were two sites, by the way, for a friend, archaeologist and historian, who wanted me to visit some sites to see whether or not they were or weren't Templar. And when you go on when I tend to go to a Templar site, there's always just a little bit more that you weren't expecting to be there. So connections to some friends and and all of this. Just very, very, very interesting places. So the church at Bolam, so this is, for those of you who are wondering where it is, in the northeast of England, there's a city called Newcastle on Tyne, or Newcastle upon Tyne. It's in the northeast of England. It's a little further north of that. In fact, it's strange. We always think of England as being south of Scotland, but actually from Bolam, if you were to look south west, you'd be looking down into Scotland.
Oh, that's
and
funny.
it's a very, very old church. It's a Saxon. The interior of it was Norman, and I'd been tipped off that there was an effigy of a Templar knight in there.
Now, was this the sort of accidental church? So
Yeah.
you had actually headed to a different location that day. Am I correct? And weren't able to get in?
Yeah, so there were two
Because I
sites.
think I love this part of the story. This is all I know about the story, really.
So there were two sites I was trying to get to. One was called Low Chibben, and by the time I'd got there, we were losing light. So I was accompanied by a friend, Jeannie, and the second site was a church. So both sites I was trying to assess whether they were Templar, whether there was any Templar involvement. I thought we'd start off with a church at Bolam, and I'll talk to you about Chibben or Kibben or whatever just afterwards. So this church, I had read about a knight who was called Sir Walter de Bolam, Sir Walter of Bolam, and he was a Templar knight. And obviously, when you see the de Bolam of a place, well, let's just type in on Google Maps Bolam and see where we end up. And that's pretty much how we ended up there. As I say, I've been tipped off about this this night by a friend, and got to the church. And for those who are watching the show, I've just put up an image of a very old Saxon cross. Might be a little bit later than the Saxon period, but it just reminded me of how very old this place is. And it wasn't too long afterwards that I found a knight. And for those who are again watching, you can see you can see my shoes and you can see my feet in this picture, but you can also see this knight. Now, this knight isn't the Templar I was looking for, but you've got a knight who is cross-legged. It's not because he needs the toilet, but it's sometimes, it's not always the case, but it's sometimes the case that if a effigy of a knight is cross-legged, then they have been on service over into the Holy Land. So, in other words, it's a very old place. And as I'm looking around, as you do, where might this Templar be? So usually when you see Templars, they're not always in effigies like the one I've just shown, but instead are often depicted on a slab with just a sword. The idea is that you're a poor knight of Christ and you should die in poverty, and that includes your name. And just nearby, underneath a bit of Victorian plumbing, I should say, there, of course, I saw a slab. And you can see, for those watching, you can see that there is a sword. It's just to give you a bit of context for the size of this sword. It is the size of the slab. It is a life-size sword. I mean, this is quite large. So I know that the image makes it look as if, it's only quite small. It really isn't. It's really quite large. So what other clues were there in this church? Well, my friend Jeannie had noted that one of her, a sort of mutual friend, her family actually hailed from this area and used to own the church. So that was the first bit that was a little bit odd. And of course, the spider senses are tingling with this. Not too much later, having explored this church, we started to see some carvings. So you've got a fish carved into a column there. Usually a sign, an old sign of Christianity, the fish. And then again, not too far away, there we have, I apologize for the poor image, but you can see that, well, is it Templar? Is it Hospitaller? Unfortunately, I don't know. But we do know that there's a Templar interred there. So it could be Templar, it could be Hospitaller. You've got two daggers, and just beneath it is a very intriguing cross. What I wasn't expecting, just explain, when you go into very old churches, it's usually very dark. The lighting's not particularly great, so you need to let your eyes adjust. But I nearly jumped out of my skin because I wasn't expecting what I saw next. And what I saw next was an engrailed cross. Now, we usually associate an engrailed cross with the Sinclair family of Rosslyn. And this church actually lies on the St. Andrews Way that goes straight up to the Scottish city of St. Andrews, just nearby Edinburgh, and about half an hour, 40 minutes away from Rosslyn. So this engrailed cross. Now, I'll just give you a bit of a background as to the nature of the engrailed cross.
The engrailed cross is the one that looks serrated, or it has a jagged edge. And to those who might not know, because I did not know that before, so maybe everyone doesn't know what an engrailed cross is, but that's really interesting. But the family connections are maybe even more interesting.
Really, really strange. So the engrailed cross. So again, I'll just show you the image again. So the engrailed. There's a few thoughts as to, what it actually means. So the first part is it depicts the waves of the ocean. So that's the reason it's engrailed in this way. So it looks like a wave and all of this. The reason we call it engrailed is related to the word grill, and that implies some protection. So usually protection of something very precious, something that isn't freely available, something that should be hidden. I mean, the other notion of the engrailed cross is it looks very similar to the curves on a scallop shell.
Yes.
So you could call it a wavy cross. You could call it, you can call it an invected cross. There are lots of different words for it. But, it's either to do with waves or it's to do with the pilgrimage route to Santiago de Compostela in northern Spain, a route often taken by the...
I mean, I could, knowing what I know about the family connection, which I'm going to let you reveal, but in a way, the waves make a lot of sense, don't they? And now I could understand the wavy edges, being symbolic of the ocean waves, but how would it relate to the pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela?
If you think about the scallop shell, it has little grooves in it, little waves itself. So it might be, there's what's called a Compostelan cross, where the scallop shells are, if you just imagine a scallop shell, several of them put together to form a cross.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Now, if you look at the grooves on the scallop shell itself, they are wavy. So we've got two ideas, really, and perhaps a bit of medieval symbology here, where you've got a wavy cross, relates to the pilgrimage route to Santiago, and also this notion of protection. Now, it's said that when we refer to Rosslyn, and you see the engrailed cross of the Sinclair family, that actually that protection is that of the Holy Grail and of all of this. But I can't emphasize enough that this church is in the middle of nowhere. Phone signal intermittent, post twice a week, maybe. Middle of nowhere. And the last place I expected to see an engrailed cross was in this church.
So it's not in a village?
Calling it a village would be a bit of an extreme. A hamlet, maybe, a collection of some buildings. Now, it enters the record. It is a hospital. It is near hospital land, the Knights Hospitaller. I've not been able to verify whether they inherited after the downfall of the Knights Templar, whether they inherited it from the Templars. But I would just suggest that there's hospital and Templar activity to do with this church. Interestingly enough, on the outside of the church, chiseled in, is a carving of a scallop shell. Unfortunately, the picture quality wasn't good enough to show up on the screen. But very interesting, really, really interesting. And not on a Camino route. It's not on a known route to Santiago from England. So why is it there? I don't know. And as I say, there is a family connection to a friend, like I say, a mutual friend of yours now is Renee, and of Jeannie's. And as I say, her family, well, her granddad is interred in that church.
So, that's so crazy.
So you couldn't have all of the places. You really just couldn't.
In the middle of nowhere. That's really amazing.
Absolutely incredible. Now, there was another site.
Did you want to talk about the engrailed cross and the family that we normally see it connected with? Or, I mean, I maybe there's more than one family connected to an engrailed cross, but certainly there's one that plays a large role in these overarching mysteries that we talk about.
Well, the Sinclair family of Rosslyn, if you look at if you wanted to do a Google search for the Sinclair family and their shield, their herald, you are going to see this engrailed cross. It looks like, it sort of looks like a saw. You wouldn't want to be brushed by this cross. No, I think it'd hurt. But yeah, the connection, are they protecting something? Is this family protecting something? I know Tim Wallace-Murphy referenced that the cross was indicative that they were protecting the Holy Grail or some holy relics within Rosslyn. I'm not sure whether or not this church, has anything hidden in it. It'd be a good place to hide something, I have to say. Because the chances of you finding it are few and far between. It's very remote.
We have a comment from the chat room from Anonymous Glitch.
Hi, Anonymous Glitch.
That's the Scottish Rite Templar / Shield and Cross.
Yeah.
Is that the Scottish Rite?
It's found within a lot of families who've married into the Sinclairs, the Erskines, etc., etc. You really do see that cross associated with Freemasonry, with particular sites, and it's beginning to become apparent that it appears at some very key places. So you might remember back in November, December's show, I was talking about the Once Cathedral. And again, I saw this engrailed cross outside the cathedral. What on earth was it doing there? And then inside, why is it there? Well, Once is a few miles away, really, from the origin of the Knights Templar. So Payan, which I visited. So I'm not sure what it means. I mean, this is one of the things that when you're investigating the Knights Templar, this is one of the mysteries. This is one of the how does it all connect and all of that. And I'm still working on that one.
Yeah, aren't we all? I mean, I think that's a big part of the Templar research that's going on around the world. Everyone is pretty much enthralled by the Templars and their stories. But the more you know, the more interesting the stories really are, but in different ways than we might have expected. So now, where you mentioned Roslyn, are we there yet? Or
we're not there just yet. I thought we'd take
Okay.
a bit of a detour. So there was a site called Low Chiburn. And this site, there's a bit of a debate as to whether or not the hospital took over from the Knights Templar, or whether it was originally a hospital. How can I put this? As I drove as close as I could to this ruin, it looked to be in very good repair. I was sort of shooed off the land. You know, you're trespassing, you're doing all of that. Oh, the last thing that you want to happen, really. But here's an image of it.
wow.
You know, it's in a good state of repair. There was a pillbox nearby from World War II.
Oh,
And yeah, it was certainly lived in and used up until the
wow.
the medieval period. As late as the 1600s, 1700s, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, as I say, losing a lot of light, it meant that we couldn't really explore too much, although I was greeted by a lovely friend who I'm calling Sean.
Oh, a little lammy pie.
But yeah, here's an image of what the site might have looked like. It's definitely moated, which, begs the question, why? So it's a little community.
Tiny community.
Tiny community, but a place that I would like to explore a little bit more.
Yes. Yeah.
So where we went after that was over to my old stomping ground of Vindolanda. And I'm glad to say that after quite some time closed, limited access, not just because of winter, but COVID and various restrictions, there was limited access to the site. And Vindolanda sits on Hadrian's Wall. And is certainly one of my favourites. And every time you go, you see that there's something new. So the image I've just put up here is what's known as hypercaust. This is Roman heating. So underfloor heating, likely in a bathhouse.
Could you explain that a little bit? Do they heat the stones somehow, or?
So what would happen is there'd be a small room just to the just off the hypercaust that they burnt hay, anything flammable really, and the hot air would go underneath around these stones to increase the surface area, and would then be channeled around a house or a bathhouse or wherever. So I'll just give you an idea. There was a storm coming that day, and the temperature was somewhere in the region of about 4 or 5 degrees Celsius, cold. I could have done with a bit of Roman heating then, and that's me saying that. I very rarely get there.
I know. You're never cold.
But absolutely brilliant, and I had the good pleasure of going and showing a friend.
Of course, we lost Jeannie on that trip. She blew away.
she did, yes. I think you'll see her landing towards California. Mary Poppins. she will do.
Mm-hmm.
But I managed to take her around a Mithraeum. And this Mithraeum is incredibly unusual because it's above ground. And we don't know too much about the cult of Mithras.
Now, would that have been covered?
Certainly, it had been removed. The idea is when you go into a Mithraeum, I'll just leave this image up. As you walk into the Mithraeum, it's dark. And the only thing that you can really see is the light that is emanating from one of the pillars at the far end of the Mithraeum. So on the image that I've just put up, the left-hand column is that of Mithras, and there are three serrations around Mithras's head. Now, they're carved right the way through to the back of the pillar, and at the back of the pillar, a candle or a series of candles would be lit, so that all you can see is the light emanating from Mithras's head. Now, again, we don't know too much about the nature of Mithras and what happened. It's called a mystery cult, and the reason it's called that is we just don't know too much about it. A lot of soldiers who were stationed across the empire were members. We know that there was an initiation rite that involved the slaughtering of a bull, being completely bathed in its blood and then being dragged out of the earth, and you're reborn into this Mithraic tradition. But again, these sites where you find Mithraeum, there's often sites of spirituality. There's a lot of sites of mystic traditions. Some have referred to ley lines and things like this nearby, and they're not always that far away from a Templar site or some other significant site. All very, very interesting. And of course, there's a lot of similarities between Mithras and Jesus in this way. Mithras's birthday is the 25th of December. That's why you frequently will hear me say things like "Happy Mithras, everyone."
Right. Was he not also have been said to have been born of a virgin also?
Born of a virgin. The reason for the association with the bull and Mithras is, the bull, the eternal knowledge of the bull in a cave, and the reason why a lot of the Mithraeum are pitch black is because they're trying to recreate the cave. Now, we presume that were there Mithraic practices in caves, or did they mostly just build these particular things? It's believed so, but as I say, there's just so little information about it because it was a secretive cult. People didn't write things down. It's only when archaeologists, historians have uncovered little scraps from here and here. I'm trying to piece something together about Mithras. I mean, for example, the belief system probably started in the Indus Valley in India and then migrated westwards. But yeah, we just don't know too much about it. It's very exciting. Yeah. There is a lot of mystery surrounding it. You hear very weird stories about people in secretive groups that might be using those practices for really nefarious ends. And I just wonder. I just wonder whether or not some of the traditions. I mean, Constantine, the famous emperor, may have been a member, but he creates his own. He doesn't create it. Sorry, he joins and advertises it. The cult of Sol Invictus, the invincible sun, essentially sun worship. And then Of
That's how
course,
we
he
got
was.
Sunday.
Could be. Why not?
Well,
But yeah,
I mean, I believe they did incorporate, all these different religions and belief systems into Christianity, because I believe that we know that Jesus was not born on December 25th. I can't
no, it's
remember now the date, but because they were trying to loop in all these disparate groups, they sort of gave each a little something of their own that would be familiar and comfortable for them to bring them into the fold. So, with Mithras, it was December 25th, born of a virgin. And then we had the sun worshipers. And so we made the Sabbath on Sunday, or I guess at some point in Jewish tradition, it's Saturday, but in Christian tradition, it's Sunday.
It's strange. I sometimes think that the Mithraic tradition continued very secretively. It's almost like as you look back through time, you sort of see just every so often just these little glimpses of, some of the practices. I mean, for example, you've got the vampire, as she's called, Elizabeth Bathory, over in Hungary.
Oh, right.
Bathing in blood and all of this. It's very similar to some of the alleged practices of Mithras. You've got the bull, this worship of the bull, and just remind you what's outside Wall Street, which animal it is. It's almost as if that some of the symbols and some of the practices came forward, and I just wonder whether or not they split into sort of negative and very dark side, and maybe a more enlightened side. Because if you're a soldier stationed, for example, on Hadrian's Wall, it is bitterly cold, and you're doing the night shift, just staring out, looking for raiders.
And what's the year?
Well, Hadrian's Wall's built begins around
122.
122 AD. There's probably a wooden wall or earthen ramparts before that. Almost certainly was around about 80 AD.
Wow.
And well, this Mithraeum's really 2nd century onwards, and it was called Broccolitia, which means something like badger holes. So they obviously had a problem with badgers. Why not? But it's absolutely fascinating place. And I'll just tell a quick story from, must be about 6-7 years ago. I took a friend around the site and was explaining what had been found. There's perhaps a nymphaeum nearby, sort of fertility worship, roughly. And there was a bag of money on top of a pillar dedicated to Jupiter. And you can see that in the image that I've just put up, there's a little bit of money there, not much, but imagine there's a plastic bag full of notes of different currencies, dollars, British pounds, euros. And
That's
I thought,
crazy.
I wonder what this is about. Are people still worshipping, or have I just interrupted a drug drop or something? I don't know. I left it well alone. I wasn't interested in finding out.
I wonder if everyone left it alone, or somebody, I bet, ended up taking it. And why all the different currencies?
I don't know. It was strange. There were a lot of coins there. It wasn't there when I visited a few weeks back. Put it that way. So someone's had it. But yeah, why? And this part of the world is, this is northern England. You run out of England rapidly. very, very ancient indeed. I mean, you've got very ancient cultures, Celtic cultures, the Brigantes, the Corvetti, who were around worshipping, doing all sorts of things. And the landscape is scarred, littered. It really is, just visiting this area of northern England is, you don't need a history book. Just look at the ground. Really interesting place, but it is unusual to have a Mithraeum that's above ground. There are others, but mostly they're subterranean. They're usually in caves, things like this.
So there are some caves are used for that, but then they sort of create some kind of underground in other areas that maybe don't have caves.
Yeah,
actually build underground ones.
They tended to look for naturally occurring caves. So this site may have been covered over. We don't know. It certainly, the structure looks like it was roofed. In fact, it almost certainly was. Whether it was curved, that's a new one, covered by earth or something like that.
Right.
We don't know.
Hard to know.
But just nearby, just as a little bit of a treat for those people who really love Vikings, is a place called Bewcastle. And there's a lovely sign, Rome, 1,141 miles in that direction, church and cross, just look left. And so drive up, look at this. Oh, I've got all this way to get to Rome. Oh, look, it's just there. And there's, again, just this story, this tapestry, this really rich tapestry, not too far away from this Mithraeum. You then find that there's this very intriguing Norse stone, runes.
Yeah.
Huge totem in the middle of quite an old churchyard. And here's a rubbing of the stone itself. Now,
and what does that date to?
Well, the cross is a little unusual because it's before the Viking raid at Lindisfarne. So I'll just read out what it says on the inscription. But the date from the inscription, we take it to be from 664 AD. And I'm not going to try my old runes. This is bacon, fun set on with a wolf after. I'm not going to carry on.
You could just be saying anything. We wouldn't know.
And I really just butchered it. But it says that this slender pillared, Whitred, Weithgar, and Elfwold set up in the memory of Akref, who was the king and son of Oswiu, or Oswi, pray for their sins and their souls. Hiosine Sawola. And that gives us a date of, as I say, 664, 670, around this time. So the real question is, what's it doing there? Now, Saxons were using runes at this period, but who knows? Is it someone's come up and traded? I mean, this area was controlled by the Cumbrians, who have a Brittonic or a Welsh, the original Britons of King Arthur. I mean, this is around the time of King Arthur, allegedly, or perhaps a little later, but, and there it is in this churchyard. Absolutely fascinating stuff. And dedicated to a Northumbrian king, too. and again, in the middle of nowhere. You know, why would you do this? Obviously, whoever has carved it had a bit of money behind them. And it was just, I'm just showing you this because, the area is just so steeped in history that, you just wonder, just nearby is this huge wall, would have been about 20 foot tall, something like this, Hadrian's Wall. And then just on the other side of the perimeter in, Scotland, Pictland and all of this, is this huge stone near this very old Saxon church with a lot of runes on it.
Wow. And can you explain why Hadrian's Wall was built in that particular location?
Yeah, if you imagine the map of Britain, in fact, I've got a map. It's one of the thinnest bits between the two seas, the Irish and North Sea. Mm-hmm. Now, the idea is that Hadrian wants to put a limit on expansion, wants to really secure the boundaries of the empire. It's also, Hadrian's Wall, yes, it was military, but it was there for trade as well. It was a really, really busy trading post. And of course, if they're going through, if traders from Scotland or Pictland, as it was, are traveling through trading, the Romans can tax. Now, there's a hell of a lot of misinformation out there. So let's just correct the record that the Romans didn't make it to Scotland. They did. They absolutely did. The Romans actually built another wall called the Antonine Wall. You can still see it if you go to Glasgow. You can still see some remnants on the approach to Edinburgh too. They built another wall, the Antonine Wall. And in fact, the Romans had forts as far north as Aberdeen in the north east of Scotland, just at the tip of Scotland. And in fact, there's a very famous story about the missing legion, the 9th Spanish Legion that goes missing at a battle known as Mons Gropius. And it's believed that Mons Gropius, it's never been found, but in fact is in the Highlands of Scotland. They go missing. Where did they end up? You don't miss a legion. There's a large number of soldiers and support and all of this. Where did they go? It's almost if they vanished. And this has led some people to, of course, mention they were beamed up by aliens or whatever. But if you go to the city of York, where the Legion was based for a time, there are plenty of reports of people seeing a Legion marching through buildings. So I can't remember which building it is, but if you go into the basement of it, near the York dungeon, if I recall, people have seen soldiers walking, marching, and just their torso up to their head.
Oh, gosh.
Which is really interesting. But if you think about it, the ground level was much lower in Roman times. So, of course, that is all they would see.
Oh, wow. So they were on the same, what would that be? Sea level, same height from sea level as they would have been at the time.
Yeah, and perhaps,
so interesting.
Well, this is it. And, is it that they're leaving on a march that they'll never return from? Now, there's some debate about whether or not they fought at Mons Gropius or, in fact, they were deployed elsewhere. It's a mystery, but they disappear off the map.
Now, are these reports, ongoing?
Oh yeah.
Of these sightings?
I was stopping not too far away from Vindolanda a few years back, and I could have. I was outside, dirty habit and smoking and all of this, and all I could hear was it sounded like marching. to the point where I was absolutely certain
gosh.
that the ground was vibrating slightly too.
Oh my goodness.
And that was only a few years back. Now, it could have been anything. You know, you let your imagination run wild with you, don't you? But really, really...
You do sometimes, but also a lot of times what I find that I do, and I think maybe other people do too, is when something happens that is sort of outside the realm of the norm, after a while, you just talk yourself out of it and start trying to explain it away when maybe it really was something. But you start saying, oh, that must have been a light, reflection off this, or, oh, I just heard a car go by and it was vibrating the ground, but I know, like, there have been times when things have happened, and at the moment I was absolutely sure of it, and only later did I sort of wind down and talk myself out of it. So who knows, you might have really heard something there, especially if other people are reporting things in that same location.
What was interesting about this, I mean, this was further towards Newcastle where I was staying. What was interesting, it was the first thing that came to my mind. It wasn't, always at, I don't know, someone drilling, at 12 o'clock in the morning, or is there actually a march going on or something like that. My mind just went straight to, that's the missing Legion.
Wow. Ooh, that's interesting. That gave me chills.
Yeah, I hadn't been talking about it either. It was just, it popped into my mind. But
Kathy in the chat room said the same thing I did. She said, got the chills when he talked about that experience. I did too, Kathy. It was wild. Yeah, that gave me like a real woo. But I have a feeling you might have experienced something there that, you're now trying to explain away.
Yeah.
As we do.
It's possible. And, what happened to them? And there's lots of, again...
how many people are we talking about? When you say Legion, I just picture hundreds and hundreds of, maybe 1,000 people or something. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Wow.
We're not talking about 10, 20. We're well in the hundreds, thousands. This is a army fighting force. So you've got a Legion. Now they will have been supported by what are called velites and auxiliaries and cavalry and all of this. And again, Mons Gropius is recorded as being a Roman victory. And we know that it was at the foot of a large mountain, and the descriptions are interesting because it kind of fits with the Highlands, and this would have been a battle against the Picts.
Oh.
But really, what happened? What happened to them? And there's lots of, the interesting thing is there's lots of forts. So the Romans were building forts to defend the coastlines and really trying to subdue the area that we know as Scotland. Now, the Scotty, and I'm not on about Star Trekker, but the people who gave the name to Scotland hailed from Ireland, from Northern Ireland, and they pushed the Picts out eventually. But the Picts were called the Picts because of their face paint, basically.
They were
whether that's true
people.
Or not. The pictured people, whether that's true or not is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to remember them.
Yeah.
That's how I always remembered the tattoos is, because they had pictures on them and they were called the Picts. But yeah, I wondered whether or not that just was something that got sort of.
Genghis Khan's mentioned about the Roman Republic and the composition of, certainly in the Republic, yes, 4,200 infantry, 300 equities, say horse, and and 5,200 infantry, 120 in the period of the Roman Empire. I will just say this. At Vindolanda, we have found, and have been involved in some digs there myself, what are known as the Vindolanda tablets. And they gave, and they're known as the Vindolanda tablets. They were found at Vindolanda. And these were notes that were put into the, thrown out, basically. And because the soil there is anaerobic, it doesn't, it preserves things. These tablets, you see them being a sort of cream color for about a second, and then as soon as they hit the air, they go black. So you've got to be able to see them. If you do, they're then sent over to the University of Newcastle for CT scanning. And that then reveals, and then processing and repair, etc., etc. But that reveals little bits of writing. So
oh my God.
The reason I mention this and the number of soldiers, there's a few of the tablets that are my absolute favourites, and some of them bring a little tear to your eye. So, for example, there's a note that was sent by a mother in Italy to her son who was stationed on Hadrian's Wall. And it says, I'm going to make up the name. I can't recall the exact name, but, Maximus, I really am missing you. I hope you can get back at some point soon. I hope that this letter and the parcel arrives with you. I've sent 2 pairs of socks and 2 pairs of underwear for you. Love, Mom. And yeah, okay, it's a heartwarming story, but we didn't know if Romans wore underwear
or socks.
And we do now. There's again a favourite, the hurried writing of a sort of lieutenant, if you will, sort of garrison commander, down to the prefect in York. Urgent, please get provisions. We are losing men. They're basically leaving. They're not turning up for duty. Desertion and all of this. And the reason for it, we have run out of beer. So, in other words,
send beer.
Send beer is what it says. And there's a few other ones as well. I'll just share very quickly, which is, I hope that you can attend my party on the Ides of September. It's going to be such a bore with these military people. But if you attend, my dear friend, it will make such more of a party and much more fun yours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first. It's the first found handwritten evidence of a woman writing to another woman from this period.
Wow.
So there's, if you're planning a trip and you want to look at Vikings and you want to look at, Mithric mysteries and some bits and pieces like, not quite steam powered, but, clocks, which have got days of the month and all of this on it, then head over to Vindolanda. Plenty of mysteries. But the desertion...
It'd be fun to make a tour, put together a tour for anyone who's interested in... Because there is sort of a small area there where there's a lot to take in. You could spend the whole time in the north of England and Scotland and never run out of things to see and do.
This is it, and it just gives us such a human picture. We always think of the Roman Empire, when we think of the Vikings, it's always involved in battle and all of that, and it's not true. Just to say with the Genghis Khan before, with the information about the infantry, but we don't, what we don't know is how many people had deserted. Did they have enough beer and rations? You know, was it fighting at full strength, or, you know, we don't really know too much. And it'd be lovely, wouldn't it, if we could find at some point in the vast geography of Scotland, you know, perhaps if we could find just some remnants of this battle and, you know, remember them. Maybe they'll stop marching out of York then when we do.
Exactly. I mean, that is just an incredible story. I mean, because with that many people and animals and, you know, horses and whatever they had with them, I mean, where are the bones? You know, if they lived out somewhere, where? And why hasn't any no remnants have been found? Is that correct?
No, we don't know where the site was. Now, to get there into this, I mean, this is up towards the Orkneys, where we'll talk after the break about Sinclair and where their family came from, which is Orkneys and Caithness and all of that. Now, what's likely, if it was in that area, the soldiers would visit forts, you know, but just imagine that, you know, you've just got your socks and underwear from your mum in Rome, you know, and she's missing you dearly, and then you're going off the edge of the world in this very dark, non-Roman place. On Hadrian's Wall, you've got good life expectancy, really rich diet, you know, food, fruit, veg, all of the rest of it, meat, fish. You've got all of the trappings of Rome at this extreme northern point of the Roman Empire. And then you're going into the to the darkness. But please, let's not think that the Picts were savages, because they weren't. You know, they were very cultured. We don't know really what we haven't decoded their language.
And they had cool tattoos. So, you know, what can you say?
Exactly. we need more cool tattoos in life.
Yeah, we do. Well, gosh, we have just about come to the time for our break. So when we come back, more from James Martin's trip and his new findings. Stay with us.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button, so just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Welcome back to Night Vision. If you're just joining us, my name is Renee Barnett. I'm your host. And with me tonight is Night Vision historian James Martin, and he is sharing some of his recent discoveries from his trip through the north of England and into Scotland. And I don't know if we're going to get to some other areas or not, because I know you've been all over. But anyway, so what was it you said right after the break you were going to talk about?
So, carrying on with our Viking story was a trip over to Lindisfarne. And for those who perhaps have never heard of Lindisfarne, it's otherwise known as Holy Island. And this is where some monks from the island of Iona had set up a monastery, a bit of a hermitage, things like this on the island. Now, it was Oswald, who was the king of Northumbria, called someone called Aidan to set up a monastery on the island. And the island is relatively, I wouldn't say unique, but it's unusual. Now, Aidan becomes Saint Aidan, I should say. But the island is not always an island. And if you try and approach the island at the wrong time, you might end up stuck. So there's a causeway, and at high tide, the island is completely cut off from the mainland.
Now, was that the island with that little tall building on it? Wow.
There's the castle at Lindisfarne that's been around for some time.
It's gorgeous.
Queen Elizabeth and Henry VIII bolstered its defences. I mean, this is really on the border of Scotland when the two countries were separate and often at war with each other. This castle was really the first line of defence near to another castle called Bamborough, which is a real big castle. It's not a Disney castle that, whenever I think of a proper castle, I think Bamborough. But Bamborough, there was a show called Vikings, I think it might have just been called, or something like this. The Lost Saxon, I can't remember. But Uhtred is a distant ancestor of mine, Uhtred of Babenberg. Babenberg is Bamborough. So we're, to just give you a rough idea, Lindisfarne is about a mile away from Bamborough, very close to each other. And there was a religious site set up at Lindisfarne. And essentially lots of wealth, treasure, whatever you want to call it, religious icons. The bones of St. Cuthbert were there for a while. And then as the story goes, and I should emphasize the term story, the Vikings turned up, and there was lots of pillaging and murder and bloodshed and rape and all of this. And they first attacked the beginning of the Viking Age. It's said to have been the sack of the island of Lindisfarne. Now, the reason I just wanted to talk about this is just as we're approaching Roslin Chapel, the Norse or the Vikings had started their conquest of England and northern France from this period. So what you've got is, we're talking the late 700s, 800s, where there's this attack on the island of Lindisfarne, and I think the first raid is 793 AD. What the Norse then do is set up Normandy, the Norseman area, the Norseman land, of which our Sinclair family hail. The Sinclair family were of Norse extraction. They were of Viking extraction and ended up ruling quite a lot of lands that were under the control of the Norwegians. Now, the attack on Lindisfarne may have come from the east coast of Denmark, so perhaps not the Norwegians, but the Danish instead. That's a very long way to travel. But I just wanted to correct the record, really, because if you've heard about the sack on Lindisfarne and this Vikings show or whichever it is depicts this raid and it's all bloodshed, the missing part of the story is what happened just before it, namely Christian missionaries going over to Scandinavia and baptizing people in boiling oil.
Oh, geez.
Or Charlemagne, for example, a place called Verden in today's northern Germany, forcibly baptizing 4,500 people before then killing the 4,500 people he'd just forcibly baptized. In other words, if we want a true picture of things, we just need to put things into context. I mean, the Norse or the Vikings, whatever, were trading with Britain, perhaps. How else would they have known? It's a very good guess, isn't it? You know, right, we've built these long ships. Let's sail over here. Oh, look, we've just ended up on this rich island full of monks and no defences. They obviously knew about it beforehand. So a lot of the depictions of the Vikings come from this period, Alcuin of York, Charlemagne, all writing about these evil pagans. There's a little bit more nuance to this. They're very cultured and what have you. But yes, just to sort of really set the scene, there is a little tidbit though, which is there isn't any evidence of this raid on Lindisfarne, or there's no evidence that remains. So it might have just been the first, I don't know, conspiracy, false flag. We need to go and take over these pagans, lost pagans in Europe idea. And we do this by setting up a bit of a false flag. Now, whether or not that's the case, I'm just saying if we're led by evidence, there isn't any on the island of Lindisfarne for this attack. There are certainly plenty of bits of evidence for other attacks elsewhere, you know, in Scotland and further down the coast of England, but at Lindisfarne, no evidence.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of suspect that as much brutality was going on from all quarters, that, you know, we have this image left to us of the Vikings as being these horrible beasts who, you know, came into town and just leveled it and all that sort of thing. And, you know, I guess that wasn't, you know, it's another instance, I guess, of history being written by the victors in putting themselves in the best light and their adversaries in the crapper, to use a scientific term.
Exactly. I mean, but the thing is, the Norse had a really large maritime empire. They, you know, island hopped to Britain. You know, they colonized Iceland, Greenland, and then we know that they ended up in North America. That used to be prior to the 1960s. If you were to say this out loud, you'd be laughed at until the site at Lonesome Meadow, Jellyfish Cove, in other words, was discovered. We know that they were the first to discover, you know, North America, and I've just finished writing about this in a book due to be published soon.
They were in Oklahoma in 1012. You know, the Havener runestone, you know, sets out the date and everything. It's there, and I mean, how could they have been that far inland?
There's lots of
Well, there's lots of riverways and waterways, but certainly nowhere near the ocean.
there's lots of, I mean, look, the Vikings established Russia. Russia actually means land
What?
of the the
gosh.
Vikings under a Viking called Rorik, who created what's called the Kievan Rus. Kiev, obviously the really nice chicken and garlic dish, but the capital of the Ukraine.
Well, are we talking of? Yeah, I was going to say, are we talking about Ukraine? Wow.
Yeah, it was called the land of the Rus, and the Rus just means people who row.
Yeah.
And the
You know
name
what?
for that,
I just have to say something since you've mentioned Ukraine. I just want to say that my heart just goes out to the Ukrainian people, because it must be terrifying, to be sitting and just waiting and at the mercy of, what now is, like 175,000 troops on three sides. And I just can't imagine what their daily lives are like right now. I know they're doing their best, to stay calm and cool and go about their daily activities. But it has to be wearing especially on parents and other people. So I just feel so much solidarity with them right now. And maybe it's not right to mention, and maybe it's political, but I'm always for the little guy, I think. And, they're in a very precarious position. Sorry to bring us current.
You get into, should one country ever invade another, then.
That's true. That's true. And maybe not, maybe not. I mean, I think I could understand it if there are, gross, humanitarian issues or something like that, where you're going in to save people, but not just to try to, big up yourself and get more territory. And I know that, Russia's not the only one guilty of that. We've done it. You've done it. UK's done it. I guess France has done it.
Not me
Not
personally.
you.
I've just visited sites. I haven't gone with a sword or anything.
Hey, some of your ancestors,
Oh,
buddy,
definitely. Definitely.
have gone out and tried to conquer the world, and you know it. But yeah. And, another little current thing, and I probably shouldn't say this either, but when you were talking about seeing the marching soldiers in York, I was thinking, well, if they see one marching soldier in a uniform, maybe it's the Duke of York taking his leave.
Yes,
Sorry.
and his goings on, yes.
And I'm talking, of course, about Prince Andrew.
Oh, yes.
The Duke of York.
Move on from Prince Andrew.
Woo! Yep. Okay, that's enough current events.
St. Andrews.
St. Andrews, yeah.
But yeah, if we come back, the Vikings were responsible, like the Romans before them, for a lot of the countries and territories that we understand today. Really, they established, what would become the Norman Empire, the Angevin Empire. The Normans who invaded England and all of this. They really set the stall for our Sinclair friends, who, we're from that tradition of sailing around, the Northern Atlantic, discovering, the Americas and all of that. So the idea is just building this bigger picture. They end up at Lindisfarne, allegedly, but they definitely end up in Scotland and the islands of northeastern Scotland, and they take over most of the north of England. And the idea that people didn't understand that they were traveling to Iceland and Greenland and all of this is just bizarre. Of course, the people would have known about it, and especially the Vikings. Viking really means something like explorer. So, I was chuckling to myself on the route up to Lindisfarne. The Vikings invaded Lindisfarne. It's a bit like saying the customer service agent pillaged Lindisfarne. I mean, it's a job title, Viking. It just means that of an explorer. And
what did they call themselves?
Well, there's lots of Norseman.
Norseman, yeah.
Is relatively common. I mean, the word Viking really explodes in the Victorian period. But there are anecdotes of people calling them Vikings, but it's probably not what they refer to themselves as, or perhaps refer to something they did rather than, themselves. The Norseman, would be a little bit more, or the Danes or the Jutes. These are a people, rather than the people that we refer to. But we, on the road trip up, I've crossed the border into Scotland now, and I found this image of Rosslyn Chapel that was produced by someone called De Guerre, and I think this is a Victorian period image. And it depicts the construction of Rosslyn Chapel.
Is that a painting?
It is.
Yes, I couldn't see it well enough. I didn't know if it was a photograph or painting, but if it was that old, I guess it would be a painting. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's a really, really beautiful picture, and depicts I don't know, there's sort of the hint that there might be 2 Templar knights there or something like that. There's certainly a slab that's been lifted up and people looking down.
Oh, I see.
So it was another trip up to Rosslyn Chapel, and taking someone on a bit of a tour around it, having a look at the chapel. Now, I took this image of the chapel itself just because the light was shining right through the stained glass, and it doesn't really come across as magnificent as it looked.
Yeah, I bet.
At
That's a beautiful picture, though.
Yeah. So at Rosslyn, just for those who haven't been to Rosslyn Chapel, there's a tour, or a talk, I should say, that goes on for half an hour every hour. It's a lovely story, but it's a story. There's a few elements of truth in it, but that's about it. So they refer to the apprentice pillar, and the master and apprentice, and the jealous master who returns from Italy kills the apprentice and all of that. There's just no evidence that ever happened. The reason I wanted to go, other than the fact that I learn something every time I go there, was really for me to have a look at the so-called apprentice pillar itself, to see if there was any similarities to another pillar I've seen down at Elne in southwestern France, and of course some similarities to staircase in Tomar. Tomar being very famous in Portugal, famous for the Templars. Now, I'll just emphasize this again. I know I've said this before, but the chapel began construction in 1446 by William St. Clair, who was the Jarl of Orkney. And Jarl, Earl of Orkney. Let's not call him Prince. Prince of what? Okay, is the Earl of Orkney. He's descended from the Norse, the Vikings that we were talking about just a few minutes ago and builds a collegiate chapel. Now, it was meant to be a bigger chapel than the one that was constructed. It sort of looks like a cathedral in miniature, very similar to Glasgow Cathedral, I think. But I was looking at the pillar, nonetheless, and it occurred to me that it's the carvings and the symbols within that chapel are incredibly pagan. There's over 110 green men in there. And I just had another look at the pillar itself and wondered, is this actually a depiction of something Norse? Is it the Tree of Life, Yggdrasil? You know, the knowledge, the all-knowing Tree of Life, because you've got essentially what looks like a DNA helix. That's the pillar I'm referring to. And it looks like it encompasses spirituality, the physical life, and merges into one. And there you have this pillar, very similar to the Tree of Life, I have to say. It's a beautiful pillar, absolutely astounding. But yeah, I always learn something every time I go to Rosslyn. And our engrailed cross from just before we took a break is littered all over that chapel.
Yes, it is. Now, do you have a picture of the pillar?
I'm sure we can get a picture of the pillar.
I'd like to see that.
Do have one.
Do I have one?
No, I've got one. If I will just bring the pillar up.
Okay. Yes. Now that's the pillar at Rosslyn?
It is, yes.
That does remind me very much of things that are seen in Elm.
Yeah, and I just wonder whether, you have this, you have these Templar links, you have these esoteric links where there's a lot of strange symbology and carving. I mean, it does look like DNA. Did the
yes, yeah.
Did the ancient people understand DNA? Probably not. You can't rule it out, but probably not. But it seems to be, a very plain pillar. That is to say, life on this earth, entwined by spirituality. The whole point of this church isn't, or the chapel, I should say, isn't to do anything other than educate. It's a collegiate church. It wasn't sanctified until the reign of Queen Victoria. It was a collegiate chapel. It wasn't
quite late.
Incredibly late, yes. But this is a place of learning. And depicted all around the chapel are
gorgeous
lessons. And there isn't anything in writing there, well, with the exception of one of the, just above the entrance to the crypt, as it's called today, there is something in writing, but the rest of it, the rest of the chapel itself is it's pictures, it's carvings. The idea is that if you can't read or write, you can still learn. And we are very visual creatures.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just absolutely fascinating. But the only thing that is written is just above the entrance to what's often called the crypt. And it says, "Kings are strong, wine is stronger, women are stronger still, but truth conquers all."
Wow.
And this, what's interesting is it's alleged that in the Second Temple in Jerusalem, these were words uttered by Zerubbabel. Now, there are also other notions here as well. So often, because we're talking about the Second Temple, people often refer to, oh, is it actually a depiction of the Temple of Solomon? We don't know. Someone tell me what the Temple of Solomon actually looked like, and I'd be quite happy. But there are, of course, a lot of links to Freemasonry there. So you've got the Master and Apprentice, and you've got the murder of one, and you've got a depiction near this pillar of a woman on horseback. Is she the widow's son, etc., etc. But it's a fascinating place. Undoubtedly, there are Masonic references all over there. But again, it's just this place of learning, and you could spend, I think, a lifetime, on that quest.
I've heard a lot of people talking about the depictions of the musical notes in Rosslyn Chapel. What do you make of those?
I think that's personally, I think it fits with what's there. I mean, so for example, the cubes, so they're sort of depicted in an arch, and the
right, musical cubes.
And the reason they're known as musical cubes is because of something called cymatics. And that is, if you imagine you have a rubber sheet and you pour some sand on it, and just beneath this rubber sheet is a speaker. The sand, when the speaker at different frequencies is played, the sand or the sound waves will build up pressure. I'm not going into the physics of this, but the sand will form particular patterns. Yeah. And if you want to, if you want to watch more and see this, there are plenty of videos on YouTube and all of that. Now, if you look at the cubes, they do conform to cymatic resonances. And in this part of the chapel, there were a lot of musical instruments depicted. So, lutes, things like this.
Yeah,
so for me, it seems to be saying, well, here, canto hic, sing here. This is where you play the music above you, as above, so below sort of thing. So you play the music, and this helps you meditate, perhaps, or it helps clear your mind. I don't know.
Now, has someone taken those sounds and put them together?
If you go to Rosslyn, they now sell, in fact, the albums of, I can't remember what it's called exactly, but the Chapel Quartet or something like this.
Oh, wow.
But they're available, and again, I think you can listen to it on YouTube too.
I'm sure everything is on YouTube. You can find anything.
Even us.
Yeah, that's right. We're on here right now, as a matter of fact.
Carry on listening. Don't jump straight over just now. But
yeah. Wait till we're done, if you can. But yeah, I'm going to go listen to that.
But if you think about it, at a time where the church is dominant, how do you encode hidden wisdom? How do you encode true knowledge and understanding if you've got such repression? And one way to do it is if you know how to decode the symbols, then you can etch it in stone and just say it's a nice pattern. And that's the idea, I think, of those cubes. If not, they're very unusual. It's very unusual to carve something like that. They're not that pretty, I suppose, compared to the rest. They seem a bit more instructive.
Yeah. So, are we departing Rosslyn?
I think we should depart Rosslyn.
Okay. All right. Where are we headed?
We're going to head to Hermitage Castle. And just to explain this, so from Rosslyn, I was heading over to Carlisle, And coming down right through the borders, approaching was a storm. Just a shout out to those in Northern Europe at the moment, battered by
Oh my
Storm
goodness.
Eunice. This wasn't as bad as that, but it was a bad storm. And of course, when you're driving and there's a storm, you appreciate nature a little bit more. And I'm going to say something that's really unusual for me, because I'm going to just delve into, I don't know, a little bit of spirituality for this. And I'm just going to show you an image of this castle, which is on the Scottish side of the English-Scottish border. But for me, this castle, the words evil just come into my head, and here it is. It's a stock image, this one, off I think Wikipedia, somewhere like that. I'll show you some of the images that I took, but it's very unusual. It has a huge gateway, as you can see in this image, and just being there on the ground, it's sealed off, so in wintertime you can't get to the inside of the castle itself. So parked up by the side of the road. You can see the images just as I go through them. A very, very uneasy feeling.
That's not the place where Mary Queen of Scots was held, is it?
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's the place. Oh.
So the hairs, I mean, the hairs on my arm are currently on end just talking about this place. I didn't want to be there. And it's near a place called Newcastleton. You've got Newcastleton and a place called Hoyk, spelt Howick, but it's pronounced Hoyk. And everything about me wanted to get out of that place, just even parked at the side of the road, separated by this small stream. It really unpleasant. Naturally, I went to have a look and see why that might be. And found that the area, the first article I read was entitled "An Endless History of Death."
Oh,
So
gosh.
that set
A
me off
little
on
light reading.
just a little light reading, and especially at night time with storm battering me.
Oh my goodness.
Hiding under my sheets with me torch reading this. I wasn't. I had the big light on, so don't worry about that. But yeah, the castle and its previous iterations had gone between the Dacre family of Cumbria back into Scots hands to English hands, and all of this. And with this in mind, you're in an area that's known for what are called the Border Reivers. The Border Reivers, if anyone knows any Cumbrians from North Cumbria, will always talk about the Reivers. What they are is the border between England and Scotland was very rough. There was what was called the debatable land. In other words, no one really knew who owned it. And so you've got a sort of territory, lawless territory, completely lawless, of the original cowboys. Okay, so, we're talking murderous people for the sake of, you've nicked our sheep, we're nicking them back, and it's stabby time for you.
Stabby time.
And this is where this castle is, in the so-called debatable lands. And the key lord of this area is called William de Soulis. And just to give you, I'll tell you what, I'll just talk about another quick story before coming into this. The castle is often associated with Lucifer and has been for quite some time. So there was the sheriff of Teviotdale, who was called Alexander Ramsey, I think one of Gordon Ramsay's ancestors. So Ramsey is a lawyer. He takes his job very seriously. He's a very serious person, as most lawyers are. However, the Lord of Hermitage Castle at the time was someone called Sir William Douglas. We'll come on to Soulis in a second, but William Douglas. And Douglas, by the locals of the area, was said to have been in league with Lucifer and practicing black magic. Now, at the time, black magic, light magic, and all of this are seen as part and parcel of day-to-day life, but being in league with Lucifer is most certainly death penalty stuff. Ramsey, the sheriff, the lawyer, was spying on Douglas to see whether or not these allegations were true. And Douglas caught him and arrested him, then threw him into the rat-infested dungeon, where he ended up going mad and died in that dungeon. And it's said today that you can still hear his screams in the wind whilst at the castle. And if we we'll just mention Mary Queen of Scots. So there is a legend, whether or not it's true, I tend to think it is, that Mary Queen of Scots rode from a town called Jedburgh, about 25 miles away, to Hermitage Castle in a single day. Now, it's quite a distance on horseback. And if she returned that same day, you got 50 miles, poor knackered horse. But her lover, who is Lord Bothwell, who owned the castle, was wounded in a battle. She thought it was fatal. It wasn't. But she rode all this way to see Bothwell. And apparently you can still see them, Mary Queen of Scots and Bothwell, holding hands around the castle. So that's the nice story. But then we get on to the really horrible person who, according to legend, this is William de Soulis. And he is, I think we would perhaps describe him, if we go by the anecdotes of the time, as a sociopath. He doesn't seem to have normal human emotions. There's no morality with him, and it is said by people at the time that he was pure evil. And the castle was not just evil, but it was surrounded by death. And this is because when he threw his parties, it was said that he would bathe and drink the blood of children and others. And that he was in league, not again with Lucifer, but in fact, Lucifer's familiar, the Lucifer's right-hand person, who's called Robin Redcap. And Robin Redcap is a entity that people refer to quite a lot in the north of England, and certainly around this area. So abducting children and all of this, why did he do that? Well, apparently, so the story goes, the devil, or Robin Redcap, this familiar, had said that if he satisfied the devil's thirst for the blood of the innocent, then de Soulis would have wealth and power, or quote, wealth and power beyond his wildest dreams. So When the story goes, the locals stormed the castle to establish whether or not this had happened. They found bones of children and all of this. Now, again, whether or not any of this is true, I don't know. But it's an interesting story so far. So they found that the bones were cut and in different pieces. There wasn't a full body found. And the locals ended up petitioning, I think it was Robert the Bruce, who said, I don't want to hear any more about this lord. Boil him alive if you need to, in a flippant remark. And that's exactly what the locals did. Wrapped him in lead and threw him into a cauldron. And you can still hear his tortured screams to this day.
Oh, my gosh. Now, is that the castle where Mary Queen of Scots was beheaded, or was she beheaded somewhere else?
No, she was beheaded in England.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Starts with an F. Foringay or
Yeah.
something like that. Foringay Castle.
Yeah, and I think she was at Skipton Castle and all of this. But no, this is Bothwell, who was her lover, I think she married him after this. He owned this castle. So there is a connection with Mary Queen of Scots. In fact, if I remember rightly, the allegation that she wanted to dethrone Queen Elizabeth, one of the allegations that was made was that because she rode down to Hermitage Castle, that showed her intent to get very close to the English border. Now, it just strikes me as, trying to pluck evidence out of thin air.
Exactly.
And I should just say, for those who are perhaps under their sheets, having listened to William de Soulis
screaming.
Yes. I will just say this. He almost certainly didn't die in that way, but he did die in mysterious circumstances. And he was imprisoned at, I think, Dumbarton Castle. So he perhaps wasn't boiled alive, but who knows? Mysterious circumstances. Who knows? It was also said of him that he was involved in black arts too, and was schooled by Michael Scott, who is referred to as the Wizard of the North. Certainly one of the most intellectual people of his day, Michael Scott. Scott appears, actually, he's the only Scottish person who appears in it's just left my mind. Dante's Inferno. So it's all very interesting. But again, I just can't shape with all of this that just being near that castle, there was something not right about it.
That's so weird. Now, were you able to go in it?
No, it unfortunately, because in wintertime, because of the really poor weather in that area, gates are shut. So you can't get into it. You can do in summertime, but not in wintertime.
Can you go in there at night? Probably not.
I'd suggest so in summertime.
Would you be allowed, though?
Well, I'm sure there's ways and means.
Oh, okay. Is it pretty secluded?
Yeah, again, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's the other name for it is the Strength of Liddesdale. So it is in the middle of nowhere. It's, how can I put it? You have to cross over a bridge, over a river, just a footbridge. and then have to go up. Now, there's some artificial mounds that were created during the Civil War to protect the castle from gunfire and cannon. But over that, you're then into the castle, and yeah, you can explore it. There are plenty of images of the inside of the castle that are available online, but I would love to get a good feel for it, and I'd absolutely love to be there at night, not on my own.
No, not at all. Not at all. But yeah, I'd like to be there at night sometime to see. We'd have to take our Estes method and go see what we pick up.
I'm not sure, because I spoke to a few people that I know who were very much involved in the paranormal field in the area, and they won't go.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, but, since we're on the paranormal and we're coming, down to the wire here pretty soon, there was another place in England, which I believe you said is the scariest place you've been. Now, was that Pendleton Hill?
That was Pendle Hill. Yeah.
Pendle Hill.
The Can
Pendle
you
Witches. Explain what that site was?
Well, Pendle Hill is in Lancashire. It's a hill. The reason it's become famous, I suppose, is because of a group of alleged witches who occupied the village of Pendle and the area behind it. Now, the Pendle witches were executed at Lancaster Castle. But the notion again of familiars, etc. Now, that area I don't like either. Having done a few investigations there, I tend to think that not all of them were witches or anything like that, but I think there was some malice from some of them. Demdike, for example, one of the witches.
Now, is that the place where you went and filmed for England's Most Haunted?
There was that. Oh God!
What was the place where you ended up having to go outside?
Yeah, that was the barn.
I thought that's what it was. It was a barn. That's when I wondered what the structure was.
Yeah, it was a barn. A 1700s, 1600s barn, and what had been set up within it was a table and a glass, and I can honestly say that glass lifted up off the table and flung itself against the wall. People do, if they're in the area and doing an investigation in that area, end up dropping like flies. So I felt like...
What do you mean dropping like flies? Dying?
Not dying, but being incapacitated. So for me, my head was spinning, and it felt like someone had gone into my stomach and was doing that. It's like, feeling like I needed to throw up, very nauseous. I had to get out of the place. It's not pleasant. That feeling was the same that I had outside the Hermitage Castle. I wonder if I'd got closer, whether or not that have changed, got worse, or something like that. But I think
did you feel anything like that when we went to that church in Perilos, France, where it's very weird there, and all those dark stories out of there, and strange experiences? I know Jeannie did. I know Jeannie felt like something really weird. And I know that your equipment was going off the charts when you held it by the door. And there seemed to be something going back and forth on the other side of the door, according to the meter that you were holding. I felt like it was a weird place, but I didn't feel anything overwhelming or I think Jeannie actually felt something more than I did, and maybe you as well. But I just wondered if it was a similar vibe at all to these places.
I think at Pevelos it was. I didn't feel that there was it was stained in death or anything like that. How can I describe it? Pendle was part of the Brigantian Federation before the Romans, and they didn't go to places like the Saddleworth Moors. They thought this place was evil. Or allegedly, I should say, just allegedly. We'll get too carried away. The feeling...
Saddleworth Moors, are those the Moors where the Moors murders occurred? Okay.
Yeah, the Black Moors.
No wonder they don't want to go.
But how can I put it? Hermitage and Pendle and a few other places, there seems to be a very deep-rooted, very old, ancient, time immemorial sort of death and darkness in those areas. Pevelos, I didn't feel that. What I did feel is that whatever's on the other side of the door was toying with us. I didn't think it was particularly pleasant if it was in fact something paranormal, but I didn't get the impression that it was pleasant.
No.
But the area wasn't steeped in anything particularly nasty.
Correct. Yeah, it was just whatever was in there, in the building, in the church building. Yeah, I mean, I got the sense, and of course it could all be my imagination or whatever, but I did get the sense that it might be something, that we might term demonic, whatever that is, that it wasn't like a human, that it was something else.
Who knows? I think it was trapped behind the iron door, though.
Why would it have, and if it was just a person walking back and forth, why would your meters have gone crazy like they did?
But I honestly can't explain that. I didn't know it had a health warning on the meters, but we found out that it did. I don't know. I don't know. Again, is it your imagination, or is are you? Because here's what I thought. It's in Pevelos. This is southwestern France. Very unusual place, and certainly we were blocked a number of times from going anywhere near it. But as soon as I was at the door, I thought, yeah, there's something not. I don't think. What went through my mind was, whatever's behind this door hasn't ever been alive.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Now, is that my imagination? Some people listening to this will say it was your imagination. There's no such thing. Well, that's up to your beliefs. I always go with evidence. There was meters that were going off randomly. It wasn't electrical circuitry or anything like this. It seemed to, whatever it was, seemed to have been trapped behind that iron door. I don't know. I think one of the problems in our new electrical world is that it's dulled a lot of our natural senses for things like danger. People have told me stories the past few weeks, and I've gone, I was just thinking about that before I started speaking to you, though. I think it's one of those, if you can just achieve.
I think that happened recently with you and me when I said something, and you said, funny you should mention that. There was a couple of times just recently. One time was when I said, I'm watching a documentary on, who was it, Norville? And you said, funny you should mention that. And you had just done something or read something or talked about it. And then there was another time just recently, and I was like, geez, that's weird. There seems to be a lot of coincidences and synchronicities going on lately. When that happens, I've noticed that, you know, you kind of can get on a roll with your research and or whatever it is that you're doing. You know, you can kind of, you know, when synchronicities are happening and you just kind of keep being supported in that direction, it's like it's a moment in time that you need to seize, because it's not always that way. And when that's happening, it means you're onto something. That's what I think, because it's happened time and again. It's happened a lot with you and me. It used to happen all the time with Gloria and me. I would call her up and say, oh, look, I just found this, blah, blah, blah. She goes, oh my God, I'm just writing this chapter on my book. And that's exactly the piece I needed. You know, I can't tell you how many times that happened between the two of us.
A church that prior to my visit I'd never heard of. I've never even heard of the town of Bolam or anything like that. Get there and find an engrailed cross. Jeannie finds a friend's family, granddad.
Yeah.
Just recent.
Somebody we all know. It's just crazy.
And, you know, what on earth is... And I think that is fate telling you to pay attention to me.
Yeah.
You know,
just
I'm not going to give you the full
aware.
answers. You know, I'll never give you the full answers, but listen to me. And perhaps you'll figure it out.
I'm letting you know that you're on the right track.
Yeah.
You know, and just keep alert. But you know what? We're getting so close to the end of the show. And I wanted to mention something. I didn't clear it with you, but rarely do I. So this is no exception. But I wanted to mention, because a little while back we mentioned your new book, and that it would be coming out. And I mean, is it too early to announce that it's going to be published?
Oh, yeah, I think we can say it's going to be
published. I think I just said it.
There you go.
It's going to be published in the spring, right? And it may have a different title.
It may have a different title. The publisher is wanting to launch, however, next year.
That's right. That's right. Now, the book is co-written between you and Tim Wallace Murphy. And then, so they're going to re-release one of Tim's books, which is Templars in America, I think.
Yep.
Right? And then following that release, they'll be releasing the next book that Tim wrote, which is the one that you co-authored. So we'll be looking for that. You got to keep us posted and let us know what the name is when they decide on it. Publishers always do that. And then we'll be able to keep checking Amazon and everywhere else.
I will, but it does mean later this year, I'm going to begin. I've done the research on the Out of Order, the downfall of the Knights Templar.
Oh my gosh. You know what? We got to go. But next week, when we come back, maybe we can talk a little bit about that too.
Sure thing.
Deal? Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you'll be with us again next week for more stuff, more history and mystery. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.